of 1993. Mr. Speaker, should equally renewed the hope of National Planning Commission. I am of the opinion that that National Planning Commission should be resuscitated and put to effective use going forward, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues. If you look at the objective of this commission, that is an act of the Parliament, it is basically to determine and advise on policies that will best promote national unity and integration and sustain the Nigerian nation. It is equally to ensure social justice and human welfare at all levels of the Nigerian society. Mr. Speaker, this all-important commission should not be left to rust. That is my number one point. Number two, Mr. Speaker, if you look at the benchmark, the oil benchmark for the budget estimate, if you look at in 2024, the executive has benchmarked oil production at 1.72 million per barrel. In 2025 at 1.8 million per barrel, and in 2026 at 1.81 million per barrel. But Mr. Speaker, if you look at what the OPEC said just this June 2023, due to our inability as a nation to meet up our OPEC quota, the 2023 OPEC quota was reduced from 1.7 million per barrel to about 1.3 million per barrel. And that is due to the fact, like I said, we've not been able to meet our OPEC quota. And going forward, in order for us to ramp up our oil production, the current security protection of our oil infrastructure that is assigned to just one security agency by the NNPCL to Tantita Nigeria Limited, it is in my opinion that it should be opened up to other ex-agitators in the industry, in the Niger Delta, to equally take charge of their respective domain by making sure any oil theft that is perceived to take place in this domain is curtailed, and that will help to ramp up our oil production to at least 1.9 million barrels per day. Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, if you look at the total projected revenue for this budget that is pegged at 26.62 trillion naira, that is commendable, especially if you look at what the revenue stood in 2023, that is 11.86 trillion. The executive is highly commendable in this respect. But going forward, to ramp up our revenue, I've highlighted just one critical area that the executive will equally need to look into. If you look at the law that brought to bed the electronic money transfer levies, it is projected to about 3.66 trillion naira. And the cap is for those that transfer money from 10,000 naira and above. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, it is my considered opinion that if the base is lowered to 5,000 naira, it will open up more people to contribute to this pool, which the executive can equally leverage on to fund our infrastructural gap. Mr. Speaker, if you look at the critical sector allocation, like education, education plays a key role in any nation that wants to go far on this aid. The executive has done well by allocating 7.9% of the total budget to education. It is an increase from what was done in 2023, from 7% to 7.9%. But, Mr. Speaker, if you look at the advice that was given to us by the United Nations about a year ago in 2022, Nigeria was seriously advised that we should increase our budgetary provision for our education to at least 20%. There was a reason. This was to help Nigeria achieve the global agenda for universal inclusion and equitable basic education for all school-aged children by 2030. Mr. Speaker, if this is the yearnings of Nigerians and the yearnings of this House, we should equally appeal to the executive that the budgetary provision for our educational sector should be increased to at least 12.5%. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, looking at the total budget projection, I am of the opinion that it will well answer the many challenges and many problems that are currently bedeviling this nation, and we Nigerians are equally looking up to us to make sure we synergize with the executive to bring to bed, indeed, the renewed hope for Nigerians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues.
Thank you, Honorable Jimbo. Please.
Well, about the increment in terms of education and defense. But let me say something here. There's a missing gap in the budget. When you are talking about security, you can't have effective security when you have not provided sufficiently for the power sector. Without power, you cannot get 100% security. Without power, no amount of CCTV you mount in our cities and strategic points that will make it to function. Without power, the issue of unemployment remains an issue that you are avoiding, but to keep confronting us daily. Power gives us opportunity to have more of our citizens to be employed. The man having a barbering salon, the man doing pure water cannot afford the price of diesel as of today, cannot afford the price of fuel, whichever one that they use. There are a lot of problems in the power sector which I thought that the executive would have addressed. The issue every day of no power supply, discos are complaining. I also know even if there is an attempt to make provisions for more transformers, but transformers are not the only thing that the power sector requires. When you look at the power sectors today, the government, the federal government of Nigeria are not able to pay their own side, to keep their own side of the bargain of the sales that the BP undertook to sell off our investments in the discos. There's also a problem between the GENCOs and the transmissions. There's provisions for the power generation, but they are unable to transmit because the lines are not there to carry the power to the distribution companies. Having said this, and with the time limits, Mr. Speaker, you have said, it is necessary subsequently, maybe in the supplementary budget, a very good step should be taken to address the issue of power. Because as of today, police, government institutions, including the defense, army, navy, and all, they do not pay NEPA bills. And without this, and government is not making enough provisions as to a way of funding the discos, I don't think we're addressing the issue of security properly. What I have said in a nutshell is that to address the issue of insecurity, we must make reasonable provisions for the power sector, because power has a multiplier effect on every facet of the economy. I so submit, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues.
Honorable colleagues, this budget is christened Budget of Hope. And I'm happy to be associated with Budget of Hope, because it's only hope that keeps people going. And so, once the word hope is used, even the skeptics will begin to think that tomorrow will be good for us. And so, I align with that. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I want to make particular reference to aspect of transportation. Mr. Speaker, I come from a majorly riverine area. And across Nigeria, from the north to the south, there are areas that people still go through water transportation. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, we appear to be the most neglected, even in this budget. Mr. Speaker, since the removal of fuel subsidy, life has been extremely difficult for those of us who come from the riverine areas of this country, because our cost of going to our communities, cost of transportation of goods and services have gone 3-4 times more than what it takes to transport such services within motorable areas of Nigeria. And no reference, Mr. Speaker, it will surprise you that no reference is being made as to how to alleviate this hardship that the people from the riverine areas are going through. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, we appear to be like people who are not part of the Nigerian budget. We appear to look like a people who are not considered any time the Nigerian nation shares the goodies of this country. And we are troubled. Mr. Speaker, let me give you an example. Today, in any way you want to travel, our roads are bad. Fuel is very, very expensive. And the cheapest means of transportation is the rail line, Mr. Speaker. I can give you an example that from the southeast and the south-south, if you take the rail line from Warri, which is the only surviving rail line to Kogi State, you cannot access Abuja except by road. And the cost of traveling by rail from Delta State to Kogi is far less than the cost of traveling from
Honorable Faleke, please can you
Kogi
approach the chair just for a minute,
Abuja,
please?
which puts the people into further hardship, Mr. Speaker. And these are some quick wins that this government needs to attend to. That if a greater population of Nigerians, if the people who need our help traveling by rail can be connected from Kogi State to Abuja, it will alleviate the sufferings of so many people. And so I thought that this budget will be looking at such quick wins that will reduce the pressure on the people
Honorable colleagues.
represent. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, anytime we are talking about transportation, we don't discuss the riverine. And so we are left in the hands of private transporters who charge whatever they feel that is good for their business. And so goods and services are so expensive, Mr. Speaker. I want to use this opportunity to urge the National Assembly that in considering this budget, take these issues into consideration so that you will be able to attend to the needs of our constituents who are suffering hardship because of lack of attention from the federal budget. Mr. Speaker, let me also give you an example. In Bayelsa
Honorable
State, where I
Badao,
comes from,
Honorable Badao, you are not in Kano State House of Assembly. Can you sit down properly?
Mr. Speaker, in Bayelsa State, where I come from,
Well, you are under the protection of Honorable Alima Dake. I have withdrawn my statement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In Bayelsa State, where I come from, the 3 senatorial roads are federal roads. But it will surprise you that it's the state government that is constructing those roads. Why is the state government constructing those roads? Because the state government realized that that is the only way life can be made easier for the people to communicate into their communities. And in this budget, while Mr. President had talked about working, partnering with subnationals, such projects that roads that are federal roads are not considered in this budget. And so, of course, we still not find a space in this budget. And so, Mr. Speaker, there is a lot that we need to do in this budget in fine-tuning it to connect with our federal constituencies, to connect with the downtrodden, to connect the people who hardship is biting on. And I think that Mr. Speaker will lead the House to ensure that succor is brought to our constituents who expect that we will give them effective representation and attract dividends of democracy to them. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues.
Thank you, Honorable Chawai.
Renewed hope. Mr. Speaker, defense and internal security has an accumulated allocation of about 3.2 trillion, which sees a remarkable increase from previous allocation. Mr. Speaker, this defense allocation has a positive impact in my constituency and the southern part of Kaduna State, which is bedeviled by insecurity. I believe the implementation of this allocation will help in sustaining and motivating security personnel in that part of the state. The Budget Minister, Mr. Speaker, in his analysis, has stated that the Power Ministry, Transport, Water Resources, Works, Aviation and Housing have a consolidated allocation of about 1.3 trillion. He also confirmed that this is a modest allocation and that Mr. President has given marching orders to all the ministries to ensure that there is private sector involvement so that there will be growth in all these sectors instead of over-reliance on only the budget. Mr. Speaker, private sector involvement is only possible in a secured nation, and I'm glad security is being given the required allocation to ensure that the nation is quite secured. The solid mineral sector, in a bid to drive or grow our non-oil revenue, the solid mineral sector is a very important sector that needs to be given priority. Mr. President
Order, please. Order.
Stated that this is a very important sector. It is a sector that is going to be revamped, and so much is going to be done in this sector so that we will grow our non-oil revenue. This can only be achieved through private sector investment as well. With the adequate private sector investment in our solid mineral sector, I believe we'll be able to grow our non-oil revenue. Mr. Speaker, we ask...
Dear colleagues, my name is Ginger Obinna Onwusibe. I represent the people of Isialangwa North, Isialangwa South Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I am an Ongwa man from Abia State. Mr. Speaker, let me start by commending the leadership for the accelerated hearing being given to this appropriation bill. A few days ago, Mr. President came here and laid this bill before the National Assembly. We cannot overemphasize the importance of this budget to Nigerians. And that is why I think we are sitting today, which is a Friday. I want to, first of all, adopt what my dear colleague said here on the issues concerning education. To say that from what is presented before us, the education sector is not appropriately accommodated based on the UNESCO recommendations of 26%. So I want to support what he has said, that we look into the provisions made for the education sector and see a way of upgrading it. Let me also speak particularly to the health sector of our nation. Health, they say, is wealth, and we cannot overemphasize the importance of health.
Honorable colleagues.
Despite the central role.
Order, please. Order.
In the economy of our country, the health sector got in 2024 1.33 trillion, or 5% is being proposed. This is not enough, by my own thinking, for the health sector. If we even consider what coronavirus did to this country a few years ago, we should make adequate provisions for the health sector. Again, the 1999 Constitution, as amended, provided for federal character principles. And these federal character principles means that all the geopolitical zones should be treated equally. Mr. Speaker, my dear colleagues, we from the southeastern part of this country, we cannot continue to shout marginalization all the time. and nobody listens to us. I want to tell you that there is no motorable federal road in the southeast. No motorable federal road in Abia State where we come from. So I want to say and suggest that in the allocation of values, in the allocation of these values we are doing today, we should consider the southeastern part of this country and allocate more resources to its infrastructural development so that our people can feel to be part and parcel of this country. Mr. Speaker, dear colleagues, these are the few things I want to contribute in this budget. Thank you very much.
Honestly, the hope of Nigerians need to be renewed more than ever than now. A quantum portion of this budget or revenue is expected to be derived from tax. And I tell you honestly, I'm coming from the private sector. A lot of Nigerians evade tax, not because they wouldn't want to pay tax. If you go to the UK, the VAT, in the UK, they charge 20% VAT. A lot of us travel to London and to UK, and we pay it happily. Because when you are in the UK, especially London, you see how easy it is for you to commute from one place to the other. But here, people don't want to pay tax. But I tell you honestly, if this budget is effectively implemented, the hope of Nigerians will be able to regain their confidence in the federal government, and everybody will want to pay tax. Secondly, I'm asking all our colleagues for us to be committed. Let us put on our forensic eyes as we start engaging with MDS, especially the security agencies. It's not enough to allocate so much fund to the security agencies and we don't see any results coming out of it. I'm also lending my voice to people who have asked that the revenue on education be increased, because if you open the doors of education, you shut the doors of prison. A lot of insecurity we have in this country is because of unemployment. I remember when I was campaigning in my federal constituency, I wept when a lot of people who follow me to say, honorable. Many of them are graduates, but they don't have jobs. A lot of people that get involved in kidnapping is because they don't have jobs. I believe strongly that if the private sectors are strengthened, if the hope of Nigerians, especially the private sector, it is the private sector that drives the economy. It is the private sector that creates employment, not even the public sector. So, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I'm asking all of us to be committed. Let us bring out science. Let us put on our forensic eyes as we start engaging with the MDS, so that we'll be able to ensure that whatever they have allocated are going to be meaningfully and effectively implemented in the budget. Thank you.
Please present the Alapero constituency of Zaria State. Sorry. Of Kano.
God bless you. God bless you. Don't change anything. Just maintain it as it is. Thank you very much.
Of Kano State. Zaria is an old town without state. I'm sorry, sir. Mr. Speaker, I want to start with the name of the budget. The budget has been named Renewed Hope. Let me first of all say, I believe this budget is very realistic and is going to be very impactful. And most of the estimates done for the budget are conservative. If you look at the oil price, which was placed at 77.6, which is very conservative if you compare what is the current price as at today. And then if you look at the crude oil production, which was placed at 1.78, which I believe we can do much more. But that was done so that we don't have any shortfall in our expected revenue, which I believe is very, very important. The total budget estimate was 27.5 trillion, which is 7 trillion more than the previous budget. This was done so that within the shortest possible time, Nigeria will feel the impact of the current budget, which I believe is very important. If you look at what is happening in the country, we know hunger is everywhere, we know insecurity is everywhere, and that is why I am glad that emphasis was given to security, job creation, and poverty reduction. But, Mr. Speaker, if I may be asked to give a name for this budget, I would say let us change the name Renewed Hope. Because when you said renewed hope, what are you renewing it to? To be candid, in the last 8 years, if we would say the truth to ourselves, there was nothing for us to be hopeful about. So this budget should be tagged budget of hope. Budget of hope, but forget about the other word, renewal. Mr. Speaker, what is another important aspect in this budget is the issue of student loan.
Point of order.
Where 50 billion.
Point of order.
50 billion was earmarked. Don't let me. 50 billion was earmarked for the student loan, which I believe is a very important policy. Mr. Speaker, to sum it all, I believe this budget is realistic, this budget will be impactful, and this budget of hope, not renewed hope, hopefully by the end of this next year, Nigerians will be happy for it. I so submit, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much.
I remain Chief Dr. Billy Famous Adesuwa Osawaru.
Are you sure?
I represent the good people of Oriomo Nwode Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I remain the proud Benin Chief from Edo State. Mr. Speaker, my distinguished colleagues, it's true, my people have said, when you get into a meeting of parliamentarians, and we all end up smiling when we are coming out, that means we have not told ourselves the whole truth. Our distinguished colleagues, Mr. Speaker, I'm sure that today, the 10th Assembly is the most colorful assembly in the history of Nigerian Parliament. We have about 8 political parties, with APC as the majority party. Mr. Speaker, we are all now going to be here talking about the same thing and not being to talk about the big elephant in the room. Mr. Speaker, it's true that Nigeria is a country that is comprised of more than 60% of youth. Anything we want to talk about, Mr. Speaker, first of all, we must start from the foundation. If we want to have a better Nigeria tomorrow, we must have a solid education for every youth in Nigeria. That starts from the allocation of the budget, because we have seen from history that certain part of this country today, because of free education policy, today they are able to do a lot of things by being sustainable in all the different policies they put in place. And some other parts were not that lucky. And today we talk about security issues. If we drill down, we'll find out lack of primary education, basic education, is responsible for the security issues we are having in this country today. Mr. Speaker, we look at health. A sick nation cannot grow. It is a shame that the giant of Africa, we cannot provide universal health care. I repeat, the giant of Africa cannot provide universal health care for its people, both young and old. How can a country like that grow? Mr. Speaker, we need to take health care as a priority in this country. Having said that, Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the President for the renewed hope budget he has brought to us. Looking at the situation the country is right now, our people are suffering. That is why Mr. President has come up with so many programs under the Ministry of Humanitarian and Poverty Alleviation to alleviate the poverty of Nigerian people. We have the conditional cash transfer. We have the Yaloja Fund. We have student loans. We have a small medium scale business initiative. Mr. Speaker, I want to crave the understanding of this House to know that these programs must not be short-term programs. These programs must be sustainable. Anything we are doing today, yes, it's true, there is a program right now where we want to give conditional cash transfer, 25,000 a month for 3 months. What happens after that? So we are craving the understanding of this House, push more money into poverty alleviation for the Nigerian people so that this can be sustainable. It is better you don't start a program than you start a program that is not sustainable. That would become another issue for us. Mr. Speaker, we have had good budgets in the past, but what we have not had is good oversight. Today, I want to challenge the National Assembly that if we fail on the renewed hope budget, we have a lot of explanations to do. Because, according to the last speaker before I got up, yes, we agree that we have been failing in our oversight project. Mr. Speaker, I have done some research to find out we have been lazy in the way we carry out our oversight. Today, I challenge the House. We must have a benchmark. We must have a benchmark, Mr. Speaker, so that if we as National Assembly oversighting the MDAs, at the end of the year, we should have a performance benchmark where we can review our performance ourselves. Because you cannot be oversighting and you cannot review your own performance. That is why we have been failing. Mr. Speaker, the 10th Assembly must be the first assembly to get it right. By the end of the year 2024, let's go back and do a review of all the oversight functions we carried out. And because our goal is to make sure by the end of 2024, at least 95% of the budget would have been implemented.
Thank you, Doctor.
It is unacceptable to have our budget performance less than 40%. Mr. President, I said,
thank you, Doctor.
Order. The big elephant in the room. This is the big elephant in the room. And we must talk about it.
Order.
Thank you.
Order. The speaker is speaking. Hello, you sit down when the speaker is speaking.
Can I round up, please?
No.
Mr. Speaker,
You sit down when the speaker is speaking.
You have exhausted your time, please.
I have the protection of the speaker.
Sit down.
No, you don't have.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you very much for being a good leader to this House. Again, like I said, whatever we do as parliamentarians, we want our constituents to be proud of us. The renewed hope budget is here. We will do everything to make sure we work with the executive to make sure this budget becomes 95% fruition by the end of 2024.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Our very senior
Federal constituency from
you know we don't have time. I don't want us to waste time debating. Unless if it is too important, let us just identify 2-3 people to speak and then we round up. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Dr. Awolo Abdul Golebe. I represent the good people of Bauchi, Akatagum from Bauchi State. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to talk on this important bill, even
though I come from the opposition. Mr. Speaker, for the past 20 years, we've gone through budgets. I have not seen a good budget proposal like this one where the traditional 70 to 75% of recurrent expenditure has now been reduced to less than 50%. And the capital expenditure has now increased from the traditional 20% to about 36% of the proposal today. I have for a very long time been an agitator for reducing the overhead cost on the recurrent expenditure. If you look at the Nigerian population, we spend about 70 to 75% of our total earnings on recurrent expenditure. And for a very long time, we have been agitating to reduce this. And by this proposal, we have seen today that yes, the recurrent expenditure has reduced drastically to less than 50% of the entire total budget proposal. And the capital expenditure has now risen a little bit from the traditional 25% to about 36%. I believe this is a very good proposal, and I will concur with it, I will stand with it, and I hope our IGR and all the avenues of we trying to generate money will be able to meet up with this good proposal. And I hope when it comes to implementation, we will implement it to the core. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. Thank you, Mr.
Honorable colleagues, please, you pass.
Speaker, I am from Borno State. Let me first of all quickly take this opportunity to appreciate the President of Nigeria for presenting the budget of Renew Hope for 2024. But as other speakers have mentioned, let me also put it here that there is need for us to have a kind of a concerted effort and looking at implementation and ensuring that this budget has a positive impact on Nigerians. I want to say that there is this need for us to have a particular interest in looking at inclusivity, ensuring that people living with disability, women and girls, youth are prioritized across ministries in terms of the implementation. If there is not concerted effort for this target group I have mentioned to have that opportunity and have a positive response in terms of the implementation of this program, we may not have the anticipated impact of this budget. Mr. Speaker, let me say here that all of us are aware that we are passing through difficult times, and youth empowerment and employment is critical in the life of what we are passing through now. I want to say that all temporary measures that are put in place to support the sustainability of Nigeria, there is a need for us to look at it across the budget line, that opportunities are given to young people in terms of economic empowerment, skills development, and employment. This should be considered across the ministries, most especially young people that have graduated and young people that have potential to make impact in this digital generation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. I appreciate you, colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. So without any waste of time, I'll put the question. Those in support of this bill be read for the second time should say aye. Aye. Those who are in support of this bill be read the second time say aye. Aye. Those against should say nay. Nay. The ayes have it. The clerk.
To authorize the issue from the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the Federation, the total sum of 27,503,404,773,861 naira only, of which 1,376,352,359,699 naira only is for statutory transfers. 8,490,960,606,831 naira only is for debt service. 9,918,248,229,600 naira only is for the current non-debt expenditure, while the sum of 7,742,877,740 naira only is for contribution to the Development Fund for capital expenditure for the year ending 31st December 2024. Second reading.
These announcements, you remember yesterday I announced to you that Committee on Appropriations will be meeting with its members today by 3 p.m. at room 301, I think. Also tomorrow, same Committee of Appropriation will be engaging all chairmen and deputies of standing committees. So please take note. Tomorrow, all chairmen and deputies, I think time is 11 a.m. tomorrow. Venue, I think same 301? 301, right? Okay. Honorable colleagues, it's my pleasure to announce the remaining committees that we have not actually identify or appoint their leadership. And the committees are as follows. Petroleum Resources Training Funds. The chairman will be Honorable Iritemi Thomas, while the deputy will be Honorable Ajilo Umaru. Committee on States and Local Governments. You have Honorable Shehu Saleh Rijau. Alias, is Honorable Rijau around? He's not around. And his deputy is Honorable Vincent Venman Bulus from Plateau. Committee on Traditional Institutions, you have Honorable Ari Abdulmuminu as the chairman, while Honorable Mohammed Abubakar III as the deputy. Committee on Food Security and Nutrition, you have Honorable Chike John Okafo as the chairman, while Honorable Peter Anikwe will be his deputy. Committee on Neseni, you have Honorable Tawfiq Bimbo Ajile Soro as the chairman, while his deputy will be Honorable Zanna Bongudu. Committee on National Security and Intelligence, the deputy chairman will be Honorable Martins OK George. Committee on Aviation Technology, the new chairman will be Honorable Abiodun Akilade. Committee on Digital and Communication Technology, the new deputy chairman will be Honorable Rahiz Abdulkadir. Committee on Healthcare Services, new chairman is Honorable Dennis Idahosa. Committee on Foreign Affairs, the deputy will be Honorable Dibiagu Eugene Okechuku. Committee on Federal Colleges of Education, the new chairman will be Honorable Tanko Adamu. Committee on Public Sector / Institutional Reforms, the deputy chairman will be Honorable John Dafan. Committee on Information, National Orientation, Ethics and Values, the deputy chairman will be Honorable Felix Nweke. Committee on Interior, the chairman will be Honorable Ahmed Aliyu Abdullahi. Committee on Intergovernmental Affairs, the chairman will be Honorable Nwachuku Kanis Mo from Imo. Committee on Special Duties, the deputy chairman will be Honorable Abdullah Rashid. Committee on Labor, Employment and Productivity, the deputy chairman will be Honorable Mukhtar Chawe Zakari. Committee on Police Institution, the new chairman will be Honorable Ali Boya. Committee on Renewable Energy, the deputy chairman will be Honorable Aliu Ilyas from Kasina. Committee on Safety Standard, chairman will now be Honorable Dr. Suleiman Gumi. Committee on Niger Delta Ministry, the deputy chairman will be Honorable Umar Yusuf Yabo. Committee on Diaspora, the new chairman will be Honorable Tochuku Chinedu Okere. Committee on Science Research Institutions, The new chairman will be Honorable Prince Olaide Akiremi, and the deputy will be Honorable Kabir Ahmadu Maipalas. Committee on Science Engineering, the chairman will be Honorable Ino Garba, while the deputy will be Honorable Jafaru Magaji. Women in Parliament, the deputy chair will be Honorable Amadi Blessing Chigeru. Youth in Parliament, the deputy chairman will be Honorable Maazu Abdullahi Gwarzo. Committee on Internal Security of the National Assembly, the new deputy chairman will be Honorable Hart Cyril Godwin from Rivers. These are the updated list of committees, chairmen, and deputies. It is important that where there will be the need for handing over, the new and the outgoing should please ensure that they do the handing over immediately so that the budget engagements with MDAs by next week will be seamless. Another announcement, members are informed that membership of committees has been reconstituted to ensure equity in the distribution of the membership. Accordingly, all geopolitical zones are represented equally across all committees. Members should collect the list of their committees from the Office of the Chief of Staff immediately after plenary. So this time around, honorable colleagues, every member has a slip to collect, which will indicate the list of committees he belongs to. Where you have any genuine complaint on the membership of your committee, please try to see Mr. Chamberlain, the Deputy Chairman Legislative, and present your complaint. Inshallah, we will look at it objectively and do the needful. Yeah. Honorable Awal, if you are still around, please